Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jax-Miller. As the war in the Middle East between the United States and Israel on the one hand and Iran on the other continues, its effects are being felt all around the world, including, of course, for us here in the Caribbean and in Jamaica. We're going to be talking about those effects a little later on in the program. In studio with me is economist Keenan Faulkner. Joining us by Zoom from Trinidad and Tobago, we have Dr. Mikhail Pawinski, a lecturer at the Institute of International Relations at the Institute of International Relations at the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. Before we talk to them, though, I spoke earlier today with two Jamaicans in the Middle East who have been affected by the ongoing hostilities. Take a look. Now, Iran has responded to the attacks by the United States and Israel by firing hundreds of missiles and drones at neighboring states, including Oman and the United Arab Emirates, from which our guests in this segment of the program are joining us. We have with us Lennox Christie. He is a Jamaican, a senior teacher and founder of the Jamaica Middle East Diaspora. Also with us, Dean Watson. He's a teacher in Oman. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We really appreciate you talking to us.
So a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here as well.
Well, let me ask you first and foremost, how is it where you are right now? Let me ask you first, Mr. Watson.
Well, at the moment, there's a level of calm. However, people are still scared of what has been happening in our immediate ambience. And so people are just constantly talking, what is going to happen next? So there's a high sense of nervousness that is taking place at the moment, right around, especially for those of us who are from Jamaica, the UK, and more so, America.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a moment, but Mr. Christie, how about where you are now in the UAE? How is it now?
It started with a lot of anxiety and being scared from Saturday. Since then, based on the government's response and the interception of the drones, people feel relatively safer. However, the concern is what happens if this escalates further. So it's a concern for a lot of people. Now, we feel relatively safe now. Some people who are near to facilities like particularly landmarks or US bases, they are a lot more anxious because they will be here in they are the targeted areas and they will be hearing more activities than others.
All right,
but so far, no one from the Jamaican community have reported being injured or anything like that.
Okay,
Giving thanks for that.
That's fantastic news because, of course, we're all tracking that. You know, anytime anything happens, first thing people say is, we are the Jamaicans and how are the Jamaicans? So people really listening out for that. So that's good to hear. Mr. Watson, let me come back to you because I understand you're in what is called the red zone. Tell us what that means.
The red zone, what it means is that at any time, an escalation can happen. So it's essentially in the firing line. Especially we're close to Iran.
Okay, so tell us how this started, because I understand you were actually on the road when all hell broke loose. Tell us what happened and what was your experience.
Okay, because I travel between Abu Dhabi and Oman, I flew to Abu Dhabi. At times, most of the times, I drive. But for this time, I decided I'm not going to take that 6 hours journey to Abu Dhabi. So I flew, which is about 50 minutes to an hour. And I got there on Thursday. And of course, I went home. As I said, I'm a resident also in Abu Dhabi. And, was journeying back to start work on Sunday. So I was journeying back on Saturday. However, when I got to the airport, to my surprise, they told me that the airspace is closed. So I curiously asked, why was it closed? And no one wanted to say anything. But on my way to the airport, I saw a huge fire to the side of the road and wondered, what was that? It was when someone in the airport told me that America and Israel has attacked Iran and the retaliation has started targeting any American interests in the country. That's when I realized that bombing started. However, I went back home, and about 2 hours after, I heard sound like heavy thunder. When I look up, for the first time in my life, I've seen missiles over my head, been intercepted by the UAE government, but it was extremely frightening. I've never been that panicked from the day I was born.
When you say you're panicked, when you said you were panicking, tell me what you mean. What was your reaction? What were you doing exactly? Because if it was me,
shaking.
I'd be running and screaming and hiding under the table. So tell me what you were doing.
The sound and what it looks like, table cannot save you. I was shaking. I couldn't think straight. My baby boy was crying. My nanny was crying. And I do not know how to console them because it caught us right outside our apartment. We weren't sure what to do. So it's very hard to describe, but I can tell you it is not a nice experience at all.
Let me just go back to that because you said it caught you outside your apartment, meaning in what, like the parking lot or the road or what?
No. We have a play area outside, so we were out, and that's where it caught us. So we weren't sure what to do. People were just screaming all around.
This is while you're seeing the missiles over your head.
This is while we're seeing the missiles over our head. At least 3 to 4 of those missiles were intercepted. We weren't sure if there's going to be a miscalculation, if it's going to land on the building.
So what is it like? Straight. What does it look or sound like when the missiles are intercepted? What do you see? What do you hear?
Like heavy, extremely heavy thunder, and it claps 4 or 5 times. It's like an earthquake, but with heavy sound.
So you said you didn't know what to do. So running inside isn't the best thing. I mean, is this something you're advised about when you move to the area?
Yeah, we were advised to take cover in the building, but it's not a bunker. So we were just thinking, we run inside, the building is going to collapse on us. However, eventually we went inside and moved away from the windows, but we were just shaking. And just retrospecting on what happened, I feel like shaking again, but I wouldn't like to experience that again.
How long did that go on for initially?
Initially, it went on for about, I would say, 3-4 minutes. But in the night, it started again. And what makes it more nerve-wracking is when the phones, whenever a missile is coming in, the phone goes off loudly. And all the phones within that vicinity is going off. So with the sound of the missiles and the interceptors and the phones going off, then you can imagine the chaos.
The phone going off, is that some kind of warning signal or just?
Yes, it's a warning signal. So whenever there's a missile, it's linked to your phone. That's why every person that lives in the UAE must register their phone with the government.
So tell me something now, Mr. Watson, because as we were saying before the program started, we all come from country. So you come from country, you lived in the UK for some years, and now you find yourself in the middle of this. What's going through your mind?
Your question, should I have been here? You ask all sorts of questions. Is it destiny where we're here? In so saying, it has been and continues to be a very safe space. The government, the leadership the UAE or the Gulf countries on a whole that I've gone to. As I said, where I work as a senior member of the educational fraternity, I've gone to different countries within the Gulf region, particularly Abu Dhabi and Oman, and these countries are very safe. And to see this happening, it's very provoking, if I may say.
Let me bring in back Mr. Christie before I have to go to the break. So, Mr. Christie, where you are is not in the red zone, correct? So you're not having these experiences.
I wasn't having any of those experiences. It started Saturday for me, and I was meant to go see a friend in Dubai. And I messaged him and say, I'm not gonna come as early. I'm gonna catch a little bit of nap, and then I will join you. And then while I was sleeping, my phone started blowing up.
Was that with messages from other Jamaicans, or was that from government warnings?
Yes, I didn't get any warnings initially because of where I was living, where I am living. But it was from people messaging me and WhatsApp groups and social media blowing up. So I checked, realized what was happening, spoke to my family, said that the country is under attack. They got the news as well. And then we went into the Jamaica group to see what's happening with everyone. And we realized that it was happening across the Middle East. It wasn't only happening in Abu Dhabi. And because the last time this happened, they only hit Qatar, Doha, last year at some point. We from my point, not hearing what was happening, I was a lot calmer than most people because I wasn't experiencing the immediate panic. So we started to think about organizing people, started to get suggestions out as to say, in the case that your area is hit, head to this region. We tried to think of safer region because we realized that they were hitting most of the US facilities or certain landmarks. So people started to give advice of how to prepare something like a go bag. By that time, I think Dean checked into the group and started to relay some of his experience.
Can I ask you, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Can I ask you to hold on just a moment for me? We're just going to go to the break and we pick up. We're talking to Jamaicans Lennox Christie and Dean Watson, and they're talking to us about their experiences given the ongoing attacks now and the hostilities between Iran and the United States and Israel. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.